Welcome, welcome. This is the free astrotheology course. This is presentation number 50. Now, y'all have to excuse my book. My book is looking really raggedy. There was a storm, and as I said before, my book got wet. So y'all forgive the way my book looks. But anyway, our textbook is The Devil's Pulpit. The author is the Reverend Robert Taylor. All right, The Devil's Pulpit. The author is the Reverend Robert Taylor. All right. So everything I'm sharing with you is coming straight out of this book. All right, y'all. So I'm not giving you. I am giving you exactly what the book says and more. When it comes to me, that I should give some type of commentary or explanation, all right? So let's pick back up with these parables. As I mentioned in yesterday's class, parables, legalese is a form of parables, or it's the language, it's the concept of parables, right? It's hidden meaning. Using words, stories, metaphors, what have you, to hide the meaning. So that what the person who you're talking to sees and hears one thing, but they don't understand. They don't perceive the danger. They don't understand what's happening. All right? And that's all I have for a review on that. So let's get into it. But I hope everyone appreciates not just legalese, but also connotative linguistics. It's also a form of parables, all right? Because it's hidden meaning, or speech that's meant to deceive you, speech that's meant to disable your perceptions. Okay, so what do we call this? It's spells, casting spells. All right, it's casting spells. It's making people think they see things that are not actually there. And that's what J.C., the Christ figure, said himself, page 119. The second paragraph down reads, "But parables are easy and familiar modes of instruction, graciously adopted by our blessed Savior in order to convey his divine lessons more clearly to the mind." Now that is absolutely the opposite of what J.C. the Christ figure said, but this is what the clergy teaches across all of Christianity. Because if they told you the truth of what a parable is, well, you'd be an idiot to listen to anything that Jesus has to say. Now, listen to the definition, or listen to the purpose, rather, of a parable according to Jesus Christ himself in the gospel. All right? Quote, unquote, therefore, speak I to them in parables. And we see the semicolon, right? So we should expect an explanation to follow. That seeing, they may see. So you got eyes. Your eyes see and not perceive. So your eyes are seeing, but your visual center doesn't perceive or allow you to see what's actually happening. For example, you see, let's say there's a snake or a wild animal camouflage in the woods. You see it, but you don't perceive it because it's camouflage. Okay? And it strikes you. And it makes you lunch or dinner. Y'all see what Christ means by that? So that you have eyes to see, but that you don't see. I'm sorry, you have eyes to see and you actually see, but you don't perceive. You don't perceive what? You don't perceive the danger that's in front of you, or the danger that you're in. This is the purpose of a parable. And hearing, they may hear, but not understand. So again, with the ears, you hear, but you don't understand. You don't understand the language. Connotative linguistics. Right, y'all? Legalese. You hear it, but you don't understand it. You think it means one thing, but it means something or it means something exactly the opposite of what you think it means. And therefore, through your words, you incriminate yourself. Everybody see that? So what's the essence of what's happening here? Parables detach you from your senses. Your senses are not working. So what are your senses? Of course, there's the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and the touch, right? And then there's our intuition. So this is concrete. In other words, that's reality, y'all. Look up reality. Reality, the meaning of reality, I'll paraphrase it. That which you can only perceive through your senses. Okay? So, to cause your senses to perceive something that's not there, or to distort it, or to cause you to hear things that are not there, or to distort it, means what? It means you are not in reality. If you're not in reality, that means you're what? That's right, that's called being crazy. That's called being out of your mind, right? That's what people say, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. Okay, you need to go see a psychiatrist. And this is the purpose of parables, out of Jesus Christ's own mouth. And that's what we see happening, or that is what is being done to us. Right, y'all? Right? That's what's being done to us. What is this called? We go through this in the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. This is the Greek world paradigm, the abstract paradigm, the abstract worldview. Y'all can learn more about this by subscribing to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. The link is in the description area of the video. So we Moors have a concrete paradigm. All of it is based upon our senses, what we perceive and understand from stimulation or stimuli that we get from the environment through our senses. Now y'all know, if you disable or detach the senses, let's say the organ itself, for example, the eyes, detach them from the visual center. Yeah, your eyes work, but you're not able to create a reflection, or you're not able to see what the stimuli actually is. That stimuli is distorted. Instead of seeing a horse, you see a cow, or you see nothing at all. Okay? So what is this called? What is it called when someone is able to make you see, hear, and experience something that's not there? What is that called, y'all? That's called illusions and magic, right? Where they're doing the same thing with spoken words, music, and the Gospels. All right? They're putting you into the Greek or the hybrid paradigm, the hybrid world. Everybody see that? That's the purpose of a paradigm. Okay, in other words, to send you off into the land of Oz, from the story of the Wizard of Oz. That's the whole purpose of it, according to Christ himself. So let's keep going. That's the end of the review, okay? Let me just say this one last thing. The author makes a very strong point here. The author says that if you leave it up to religion, now when you say religion, you have to include the legal system. You've got to include the Templars and the banking system. They're all working together. They're not working against each other. They have, up until this point, supported each other, right? They may fight within their own groups, but when it comes to you and I, when it comes to the Moors, regardless of what nation you come from or what tribe you come from, it's not about tribalism. I'm talking about all of the Moors as defined in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, correlated with the lawful definition of land in Black's Law Dictionary, etc. Moors are land. This is who I'm speaking of, the Moors, the rightful heirs. When it comes to robbing us of our estate, they work together as a whole. I'm talking about institutionally, not individuals. I'm talking about the institutions, right? So the religious leaders can get the courts to come after anybody who's exposing them. The banking system will support them. The banking system will file charges, okay? Or will look for something to give to the legal system to, get at that person who they want to lock up and exterminate, possibly in prison. All right, y'all, they work together. That's not news. So if it's up to the religious people, the secret societies, all we would know is Jesus Christ crucified. Meaning what? Meaning all you would know is a fairy tale. All you would know is that which is detached from nature, having nothing to do with nature or natural law. That means you would be helpless. And nature would itself punish you. Why? Because you'll be going against nature, natural law, and not knowing it. Therefore suffering the consequences of it. This is the purpose of parables. Parables are meant to disarm and disable you, to cause nature itself to punish you. That's what it's for. For example, this is the extreme example. Go out and jump off of a 100-foot bridge. Go out and jump out of a 10, 20-story window. Go out and try to pet a bear in the wilderness. See what happens to you. All right, go out here and drink poison, like it says in the Gospels. See what happens to you. Now, these, of course, are extreme examples, but the point is clear. These are not subtle. Well, go out here and take advantage of some man's consort or his feminine heir. See what he does to you. See what nature will provoke him to do to you. But when you're detached from nature and you're thinking about morality and ethics and what somebody should and shouldn't do, well, see what happens to you. All you have to do is look at the condition of the so-called blacks, African Americans, Latinos, etc. Look at the indigenous people around the world who have bought into Christianity and into the religion Islam. Look at their condition. They're basically effed. And look at the hybrids. Okay, it's a big contrast. And nature does a lot of that work for the hybrid in terms of punishing us, me and you. And the Hermetic law of cause and effect makes it clear. That's the one law that's in your face. Right? You can see it immediately. There's either zero and often a very short time difference between the time you do something and you get a punishment or a reward for it. That's nature talking to you. No matter how subtle or insignificant the act may be, it's still nature talking to you. That's the law of cause and effect. So this is what you get with religion and parables. And now you see a technique that the clergy uses. And then also what? Also who? Also the Templars, those who are in charge of the legal system. They present toxicity in a way that seems morally upright and beneficial to you. As you saw the definition that the clergy gives you. Parables are easy and familiar modes of instruction. Okay, so one, they're not easy and they're not familiar. This is what JC said. JC said, therefore I speak to them in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive. Now, how is that easy? But do you see they're giving you the opposite? This is a technique. All right, so we are uncovering their techniques. The clergy says these are easy and familiar modes of instruction. Well, no, it's not. Now, instruction, y'all know the etymology of law goes back to instructions from your family. Now, you can get this out of the book Ruins of Nations. There's a book in there, inserted in there. The link is in the description area of this video. There's a link, a book inserted in the Ruin of Nations called Natural Law. It gives you the etymology of law, which is the instructions of your ancient ancestors. Isn't that interesting? That's every bit of Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Okay? So they're lying to you. They're giving you the opposite. All right? Therefore I speak to them in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive. What? Not perceive the law. Not perceive the law of nature or the natural law principles involved. Why? Well, you're not only detached from your perceptions, but connotative linguistics, that's a violation of the laws of language, the natural laws or lesser laws of language, all right? And hearing, they may hear, but not understand, okay? Y'all, you would be surprised how many people have contacted me asking me, Dr. Yasapa, what is natural law? What is natural law? Okay? And a lot of you watching this video, you may be wondering what is natural law also. So that's an example of it. So that's a tactic that they use. Now let's continue on page 120. The review is over. We're in today's lesson now. This parabolical, hyperbolical, or rather diabolical, and yes indeed, not only diabolical, y'all, but sinister mode of conveying instruction, once adopted, all notion of history or of historical fidelity, that means historical truth, sticking to the truth, right, is at a sheer end forever. I think I've made that point clear, right? These parables hide the truth, detach you from nature. In the same way that legalese does, okay? And you pay a heavy cost for that, right? You get locked up or you lose your life, or your kinfolks get abused, exterminated. Why? Because you're going against nature. To go against nature is to go against the Most High's laws, His commandments. And once that is done, once you do that, you have corrupted the blood of the covenant, corrupted the blood of the contract. And then your inheritance will be a turn. That's right, you wind up giving your inheritance to a stranger, to a foreigner. You get tricked out of it. How do you get tricked out of it? Through language. Through language, legalese, through paperwork. Y'all see it? We're dealing with parables. Now let's continue. Here are persons. Persons is another example of a parable, right? The concept of parables, corporate persons and natural persons. Here are persons, speeches, actions, and characters. Here are magi, worshippers of Zoroaster, the dark prince or the black prince, dark black Babylonian magic. They called themselves magistrates and judges. Non-Article 3. The prosecutors, the clerk of the court, everyone in that so-called, in that corporate court venue, including all of their policy enforcers, other agents, etc. Here they are, persons. They're giving speeches, taking actions to which we need to know how to respond, right? They're playing the role of characters. Okay, so set before us with as much relief, distinctiveness, and apparent reality. Let me repeat that. And apparent reality. So they act as though they have power. Y'all got that? They act as though they have power. But of course, when you are in your proper status and you call them out and you say, okay, you claim to have jurisdiction, now you need to prove it. I command and demand you to prove it. Produce your delegation of authority. And they don't. Okay, and they don't. Okay, so now the situation is default judgment. So in actuality, they don't have the authority that they pretended to have. Okay, so they presented to you a false reality. So this is a parable, y'all. We go into this thing, it's a parable. Only we're not reading it on the page, we're watching the play. And unfortunately, we've been injected into that play. Okay? That's what's happening. This is Christianity, folks. So that so-called unrighteous judge, he's not unrighteous at all. He's doing exactly what Christianity demands and expects of that so-called judge, that non-Article 3 whatever their name is pretending to be as a judge. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, y'all. And for us to think that they're supposed to do something different is the extreme of naivete. All right? That's Christianity. This is what the inner house, those who are on the inner house, are supposed to do. Because that's how they are being saved. They're being saved by getting you, through your own words, to go against the principles of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. To cling to the principles of slavery, of bondage. All right, y'all? It's all through religion. Religion preps you, conditions your mind for it. All right? And when you step into that venue, you're in the play, and it's a false reality. Okay? And just like Dorothy all the time had the power, we have the power. If we only what? Be ourselves and live the principles. Follow the Most High's commandments. That's it. And of course, not cower out. But anyway, let's continue. An apparent reality and the broadest features of this gospel narrative, the gospel narrative, it's a play, y'all, a tragic play. And yet, all this distinctiveness, apparent reality, and even historical probability notwithstanding, all its pure creation of imagination and fancy, and there is not a word of truth in it from beginning to the end. There's not a word of truth in this corporate system. Jordan writes, hi. Shalom, Jordan. Welcome. There's not a word of truth in the reconstructed history of the corporate U.S. corporation. It's all been remixed. It's all a remix. So this is the velvet rose tea I'm having again. It's very delicious, actually, with honey, and this time I have two things of honey. So I hope everyone is getting what I'm trying to. I don't know if I'm communicating effectively, but I hope everyone is able to understand what I'm trying to get across. I'm trying to show you that what we've learned in school has been an indoctrination. It's been an unreality. It's been a remix. None of the history is real. When we go into these institutions and we interact with them, that's not real. They're all playing a role. They're all playing a role. Okay? And Christianity is duplistic. Those who are on the inner house, the secret society members, those who are playing the role of a judge or magistrate in the corporate court system, they are unrighteous, and that's what is expected of them. They're not going against the gospel. They're not going against Christ. They're doing exactly what Christ wants them to do. That's what we need to get through our thick skull. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And you can correlate that with Deuteronomy chapter 28, the curses, 15 through 68. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Robbing us of our estate, of our health, and of our lives, and of our nationality. Y'all go back and read it. It's all there. I teach this stuff in the Saturday class that I teach at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 506 The Curses course. The link is in the description area of the video. Y'all welcome to come. Make sure you read the course description, all right? So let's continue. Let's continue. And will any man say then that there is any redeeming reason whatever why the whole gospel narrative should not itself be held to be altogether a parable? Y'all got it? The author is making the strong point that the whole gospel story, all of it, is a parable. It's all meant to make you, very literally, crazy. When I say crazy, I don't mean walking around talking to yourself, nothing like that. I mean to detach you from natural law, to detach you from nature, to make you not see the danger in front of you, making you not see and appreciate your political status as a rightful heir, making you willfully give your estate to a foreigner, willfully accept being a debtor or a bondman or a bondwoman, willfully accept not doing things for yourself, praying, begging other people, deities, and corporations to do it for you. This is what your religion has done to you. Now let's continue. And on this, I agree with the author 1,000%. The entire gospel is a parable. The entire corporate or Greek paradigm system is a parable meant to put you in bondage, take your rational mind away from you, and agree to be a bondman or a bondwoman. Y'all got it? I agree 100%, 1,000%. All right? Of the same parabolical and diabolical character, he's talking about the gospel, is of the same parabolical and diabolical character as so much and so very many parts of it must necessarily be admitted to. So can you admit it? It is diabolical. All right? On the outside of the house, you think, oh, Jesus loved you. Jesus is going to save you. You know, you have to follow the golden rule and all. But on the other side, the other meaning of it is the exact opposite. It means put you in bondage, make you a debtor, be cruel, treat you and your kinfolk, your heirs, like cows, sheep, and horses, goyim, and live off of you, a parasitic relationship. This is the Gospels, the truth of the Gospels. This is the inner house meaning of the Gospels. This is what it means to be saved, to be the slave master, to be the fofer, to be the landlord. All right, y'all? To be the greedy whomever, stealing people's birthright. Okay? And the Christian on the outside of the house is supposed to be the passive. The Christian on the outside of the house is supposed to be the passive dog who lets his owner kick him. And he still stays in the house and begs for food. All right? So anyway, let's continue. At any rate, we have in the case before us two different and distinct authorities in challenge upon our credence. For first, we have the Lord, capital Lord, whoever he was, telling us a tale is a story, highly probable in itself, which nothing hinders from being true, and telling it as a truth. Okay? While the reporter of the tale obstrues his impertinent judgment to tell us that it was not true, but a parable. Y'all got that? And whereas the speaker of the parable, if a parable it were, has not told us what the end or gist of it was. Y'all got that? So, in other words, what he's saying is that Jesus said the parable. All right? Jesus said the parable, but then you have a reporter, let's say an apostle or a clergy member, someone who's telling you about that tale or about that parable, okay? And he tells you, let me rephrase that. Jesus says something, but then your clergy or apostle comes in and tells you that what Jesus said was not true, it was a parable. But yet Jesus didn't say it was a parable. This is the kind of stuff we see going on in the gospel and with the religious leaders who are interpreting the gospels. Y'all see it? So who are you going to believe? Are you going to be the Lord? Believe the Lord, Jesus? Right? He didn't say it was a parable. Or are you going to believe the clergy who's explaining what Jesus said that doesn't sound good for a believer? Right? So let's continue. And whereas the speaker of the parable, if it were a parable it was, has not told us what the parable means. Has not told us what the end or gist of the parable was. Jesus never told you what it meant. So what does this allow? This allows the clergy, based upon your trust in them, based upon you wanting to be a part of the group, wanting to be accepted and approved, you give them full faith and credit, and you believe what they say without seeing any record. You haven't examined the etymology and the philology of that text. You haven't examined the astrological and astronomical data points regarding or relative to that text. You haven't examined the history related to the text, the context. You're just accepting. You're giving full faith and credit. So this is a violation of natural law, right? You should demand to see the evidence, the proof, the record. And that's a mistake that we have made. Okay? So we believe these clergy members. The reporter has taken upon himself to supply this deficiency and to give it a moral, which may have been the very reverse of the moral intended. Y'all got that? There's a duplicity. That's what I just said earlier. This is opposites. So what are they using with these parables? What are they using? The law of opposites. That's the Hermetic law of polarity. Double meanings. See, it's believable because you're dealing with the same nature. Right? The law of polarity. Christ and the devil. Let's say light and darkness, hot and cold. It's the same nature. The only difference is the degree. So where does hot end and cold begin? Right, y'all? So they're able to play on this, play off of this natural law and use it against you. Why? Because you gave them full faith and credit without seeing any record, which was what I just mentioned, the three gospel busters. Etymology, philology. I hope everyone remembers this. Etymology, philology, astronomy, astrology, and then that would be the science, and then the history. All right? This is the mistake we made. And we see that's what's happening with us in these so-called courts is nothing but the parable of the gospel being played out. Okay? Even when we do things like rent an apartment, buy a house, this is the gospel parable all over again. And who's benefiting in these situations, y'all? The corporate, those leaders of the corporations, those hybrids or renegade Moors who are running these corporations, right? That's who benefits. They're in the office, or in the position rather, of Fulfer. Okay? And so these attorneys get you to turn over your estate to a foreigner. That means you voluntarily do it. Which means that you can stop voluntarily doing it, right? That's why it's so important to declare your nationality and start living the principles of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, and to abandon all of your attachments to slavery, to the abstract Greek paradigm. Abandon it and make public notice of it, right? Due process of law. Due process of law. The equinoxes, okay? Justice, okay? Notice, okay? Due process of law. That's the beginning of law. And then, of course, as you continue to do that, eventually you'll make your way up to, or the sun makes its way up to the position of the summer solstice. And eventually you become the Christ, right? As you overcome your foes. As you overcome all of your foes, eventually you will become the Christ, all right? Meaning the higher self, the higher self will be your will be the way that you always present and demonstrate yourself, okay, publicly and privately. All right, let's continue. At any rate, we have in the case before us two very different and distinct authorities and challenges upon our credifice. We already read that. Let me go down. But I want to point this out, y'all. Listen, y'all. The reporter would be who? Either the reporter in the gospel or the clergy who's explaining what these scriptures mean. I want to emphasize this. The reporter has taken upon himself to supply this deficiency. What deficiency? Well, Christ never told you what the parable means. So the clergy is going to tell you what it means. That's the deficiency that he's talking about. The clergy is going to give you the meaning of the parable, whereas Christ did not. Because Christ did not tell you the meaning of a parable, well, that's a deficiency, right? Because you don't know what it means. It's deficient of meaning. But the clergy takes it upon itself. Remember, they're in the inner house. They're saved. They're saved. The reporter has taken upon himself to supply this deficiency, to explain what the parable means, and to give it a moral of the story, morality, ethics, Y'all got that? In other words, Judeo-Christian morality and ethics. Think about that. Morality has nothing to do with nature or natural law. I can tell you one thing. When you travel the world like I have, you go to different places and they have different standards of morality. Yeah, different standards of morality. And what y'all do in the West is immoral. Like a lot of what people do in the West is very immoral in Southeast Asia. Like you get kicked out of the family. Okay? So morality is relative. Whereas natural law is not relative. It is the law that no matter where on the planet you are, if you violate it, there's a punishment. Okay? And there's a lot of things that go on in Asia that's considered okay morally, but in the West, Christianity, the Judeo-Christian morality and ethical system says it's wrong. In fact, extremely wrong. Maybe y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. All right? But that's what the gospel is all about. Creating morality, creating morals and ethical systems. Why? Because you can always work and scheme and create loopholes and change them according to your political agenda, according to your social, economical, political agenda. You can change the morality. Just like what y'all see in the U.S. right now. I remember back when I was coming up, the whole gay and lesbian thing, that was, nobody wanted to see or hear that in the public, right? People, you had to keep that hush hush. I remember when I was in high school, we didn't have a lot of gay men, but there were some who looked like they were gay. But nobody never knew. But these would be the guys who got beat up, right? And now, from what I can see watching YouTube, if there's any truth to it, gay and lesbianism has become mainstream. So the morality has changed. How did it happen? How did it change? Of course, through social engineering, through media, through the legal system, right? Through the institutions, the corporate institutions. They manipulated and changed reality. Of course, all of this comes from the secret societies. This is Christianity. Okay, they create morality. They remix morals out of natural law. That's the point. So I'm trying to get you to see the mechanisms of what they do, how they do it, right? The mechanism, that's what's important, the mechanism. All right, so let's continue. For had the gist on it been to hold up the character of the unjust judge to our hatred, and that's what you would expect, right? This judge convicts a man without even a trial. He had no due process of law, none whatsoever. None. The whole community should be in outrage, right? That judge should be running for his life. See, you should be taught to hate the breaking of the law, right? All right, so let's continue. Rather than to our respect, but we're told to respect this judge, because this judge is like, quote unquote, God, right? Respect that judge because that judge is like God. The judge is reflecting God in the sense that what? You need to keep on begging God until you get on God's nerves. And then Zeus, God, Zeus, might do something for you, not because it's the just thing to do and there's a trial, right? There's due process of law that takes place. There's adherence to the natural law and it's enforced. No. God is just going to act and save you because he's tired of you. He wants you to leave him alone. What kind of justice is that? Okay, as the exhibition of the character of a devil rather than of a God. Now, I would have to agree 1,000% again. That type of character is of a devil, a deceitful liar. Why deceitful? Well, was there due process of law? Was there a trial? No. No. But a judgment of condemnation was entered against someone who was probably innocent. Do y'all see that this is what's happening? When we enter into their corporate venues that they call courts, y'all see that we're dealing also with the devil? A deceitful liar. That when we go in there, there's a play. I've been through it. I've been through it. The gospel is being enforced on us. The parable of the gospel in those venues. And I'm speaking from my personal experience, okay? From a personal experience. And I'll tell y'all this too. I grew up in a family of policy enforcers. And when I was little, I used to hear them, you know, when I used to hear them talking about, like, they would have coffee or whatever, lunch, and you know, the guys would bring their family. And I would hear them talking about the dirty, rotten things that they did to people, laughing about it. You know, how they beat people, falsely arrested people, beat them with a billy club. I would hear these kind of things, lying in court. And from the time I was little, I didn't have respect for my father because of the stories that I would hear. Of course, because I would see his behavior and attitude too. But the policy enforcers, I couldn't respect them because I saw what they were doing, right? So I'm glad, because I've never wanted to have that type of job. People used to ask me why I didn't do it, but that's why I didn't do it. Okay, so let's continue, y'all. Let's continue. All right. And had the moral on it been just exactly that men who fall under the government of such unjust governors. Well, that's everything I've been talking about, right? As he, not the justice and the reasonableness of the people's positions, they're not interested in justice at all, but act only from caprice and tyranny. Y'all got that? What's the caprice and tyranny? They want to rob you. They want to take your birthright. Okay, I remember back in the 80s when the whole crack thing was going. I remember the stories about Policy enforcers robbing drug dealers. Yeah, robbing drug dealers. Common. Common. Okay? Common. I remember. Robbing drug dealers. Stealing out of people's houses who called for help. I remember a lot of those stories. Okay? So y'all, it ain't about justice. What is it about? It's about stealing, them being saved. Right? And if they get caught up, their brothers, secret society brothers, are going to find someone else to blame it on. Just like when Jesus got caught up, and it was time for him to demonstrate everything that he talked, about being willing to give up the ghost on behalf of his Father. When it came down to it, according to the grammar, Jesus, the Christ figure, ran away. And the more, most likely it was Simon the Cyrenian, was hung up on the cross. He paid the price for him. So this is what the gospel is about. You do the dirt. The person in the inner house does the dirt, the robbing and the stealing. And then his brothers, if he gets caught up, his secret society brothers save him. Now that can only happen consistently over time, over decades, over millennia. That can only happen if the common people, those on the outside of the house, are what? Kept ignorant. All they know is Jesus Christ crucified. Their brains are turned off. The analytical mind is turned off. All they know is religious doctrine. I hope y'all eyes can see and perceive what I'm saying to you, and that your ears hear, and that you understand what I'm saying to you. I'm not speaking in parables. I'm speaking clearly to you, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. I know it's some Christian pastors who watch my videos. I know y'all might be offended, and at this level of your development, that might be appropriate, right? Because that's where you're at. But I'll tell you this, I'm not an easy target, all right? So don't go after me, because I will visit you. I will visit you in your dreams. And I will visit you subconsciously. Okay? I have the power and I can use it. Okay? So, I'm not defenseless and I'm not afraid. All right? So, you best continue on your path of development, and eventually, the anger will leave, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right? Anyway, let's continue. Do y'all know that we have the power to visit someone and comfort them with our rod and with our staff, relieve them of their misery in this life. Send them on to the next. Yes, relieve them of their misery. Comfort them. We have that power to give that kind of comfort. Put them out of their misery through our prayers, through the power of our mind. Yes. Why? Now see, I just thought of something. Y'all religious people might say, oh, he's talking about demons and devils. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to everyone, y'all listen to me. We have faculties of the mind that I'm calling powers. We have faculties of the mind that you are not aware of yet. And it's through your education or your indoctrination that you have not been made aware of these faculties. They lie dormant. See, every living thing is connected by cords to other living things. Some of y'all might call that mass consciousness, collective consciousness, city consciousness, Christ consciousness, mentalism, whatever you call it. But rest assured, the law of cause and effect is real. And everybody should remember we have a right to defend ourselves. And you don't have to defend yourself physically unless you're put in that situation. I know I've defended myself this way before. I've conquered one of these demon so-called magistrates before. Gave him a beat down every day and every night until he finally capitulated. And dismissed the case. It's real, y'all. But anyway, that's enough of that. That's enough. Let's keep going. Where are we? All right. So we were talking about how the character of that unrighteous judge is that of a devil. Okay, a demon, a devil, not an all-loving God. Now let's continue. And had the moral on it been just exactly that men who fall under the government of such unjust governors as heed not the justice and reasonableness of the people's position, but act only from caprice and tyranny, ought not to pray always, but to pray no more. See, now that would be proper. That would be proper, y'all. See, if the moral of the story is when someone denies you due process of law, when somebody denies you Article 3 trial, when someone attempts to denationalize you, which is treason, as the author writes here, these are capricious acts of tyranny. We should not pray anymore. Empress Railroad Imani writes, chapter Elihu's Lessons, the Unity of Life. Can you say more about that, Empress Railroad? I'm not familiar with it. Okay, so these are capricious acts of tyranny. It's treason to denationalize one of the people. Okay, it's treason to attempt to denationalize one of the people, a sovereign. I'm talking about natural law principles in the Constitution for the United States of North America. All right? It's treason to deny one of the people not a Moorish subject, a sovereign, to overlook and try to deny that Moorish man or woman, that sovereign, the enjoyment, pleasure, and pleasurable use of their rights when they enforce their rights. See, that's treason. So, according to the author, these type of acts carried out by so-called government, the people ought not to pray always, but to pray no more. So you should abandon the religion. Empress Roro writes, you talked about the chords. That's the chapter from the Circle 7 Quran. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Yes, she's talking about the chords. Let me go back and put that in the record. So that's chapter 3, Elihu's lessons, the unity of light. Thanks, Roro. I appreciate that. So let's continue, y'all. So what else should the people do? Take the power into their own hands. Again, this is a natural law, constitutional principle. What does it mean? These are the rights that are reserved to the people. Okay? The executive, legislative, and judicial power. So the Constitution guarantees a republican form of government. So now, there's a democracy. Uh-oh, y'all, I lost my connection. Am I back? All right. So what is this telling us? What is it telling us? That those powers are reserved for the people. Now, in the document, in the Constitution, it says to the state or to the people. You know, my personal opinion, just my experience with these scribes, the whole Jeremiah 8:8 thing, and also the revisionary history. I very seriously doubt that those reserved powers initially were reserved to the state and to the people. My personal, it's just my intuitive mind telling me this. They're not reserved for the state. Reserved for the people. But that's just my intuitive mind. I don't know. But what is there is reserved to the state and to the people. All right, y'all? Now, I'm looking at the astrotheology and attempting to put it in the modern day context. All right? So we ought not to pray always to this external deity, but we should pray no more. Why? Because it is the mechanism of our oppression, religion. But take the power into our own hands. What power? The executive power, the judicial power, and the legislative power. Why? Why? Because it's a natural law principle, and it's in the Constitution. Y'all see it? It's also in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1836, between the Almoroccan Empire and the United States for North America, right? When the rightful heir shows up, he gets his estate back. Okay? Reversion of estate. Play the Paris game upon their ruthless oppressor. So what's the Paris game? Y'all go back in history and y'all see what they did to the king. La guillotine. Is it la guillotine? Right, off with the head, right, of the king for his oppression. Okay, play the Paris game upon their ruthless oppressors and hurl them from their forfeited authority. Would not that have been as good a moral? And that's a good point, right? That's a good point. Wouldn't that be as good a moral, as honorable to a moralist, and as instructive to ourselves? No. Why? Because see, that puts the power back where it belongs, in you. Right? But what they're telling you, pray always to the Lord. Keep praying to Jesus. And when you pray to this external deity, that puts you in violation of natural law. Now, nature will react, and you'll get the effect, you get the punishment of relying on and begging somebody else for something that you can do and you're fully equipped to do on your own. If you only took the time to get to know yourself. Y'all see it? You would discover these faculties of mind that you have that are useful in saving yourself. But until you do that, you remain a subject, a stateless person, okay? And nature itself will punish you, in addition to what your oppressor, your enemy, does to take you out of here faster, okay? And to humiliate and disgrace you in front of the world so that they look justified in what they're doing to you, okay? So that's the one moral. But the better moral would have been everything that I just talked about a few seconds ago, but the clergy chose not to put that forward, right? They chose to disarm you, to disempower you, to disconnect you from nature and natural law. Y'all see it? They chose to put you in a state of bondage and helplessness. The moral on it is to represent the character of God, of Zeus, of Odin, Woden, of Sirius, of the Canine stars, the Magi, the magistrates, the magicians, etc., as that of an unjust judge, restrained by no consideration of justice, equity, mercy, or truth. Now, y'all, justice, equity, mercy, or truth. They have no consideration of these things as it pertains to you and me, the rightful heirs. Why? Because they're saving themselves by living off of us, off of our birthright. But they are chuckling, they're laughing, and glorifying an avowed injustice and most flagrant wickedness, quote unquote. Now, though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her of her adversary, lest by her continued complaining she weary me. So y'all see how selfish and self-centered they are? In reality, this is what the inner house is taught to be. Selfish and self-centered, parasitic. Smile in your face. Right? Now some of them will believe, but rob you of your birthright. There is a Lord God for you. I'm on page 121, scholars. Give me 1 second, I'm curious. All right. So there is a Lord God for you, and shall we wonder that our gods and our lords on earth, with this example of the divine character before them, should act on the same principle and deem it most godlike? and divine to be indifferent to the rights or wrongs of the people and act only in consultation of their own idleness, caprice, or humor. Now y'all got to remember, this sermon was given in 1831 rather, in London. And all of this was going on even then. Why? Because the Catholic Church, they were robbing people of their estates in London. All over Europe, they were robbing people of their estates, and the homeless people everywhere. People would go out, fight in the wars, make the Catholic Church their trustee, and then they come back, and the Catholic Church doesn't want to give them their estate back. They ain't giving it back. Straight robbery. So now they and their heirs and their kinfolk are living in the street. Okay? And at the same time, you got all of this going on. You got that they're burning people at the stake. They're torturing people publicly. They're exterminating and expelling the Moors, forcing people to adopt their religion. Telling people you need to pray all the time. As my point of view, it's just my point of view. Y'all don't have to agree with me. I don't have any evidence. It's just my intuition. My intuition is that the gospel was edited. This gospel story was edited to say you need to pray all the time at the height of the Inquisition. So you need to pray all the time. Why? Because you got death and destruction going on all around you. Everybody's getting robbed. All of these wars going on, and the Catholic Church is winning. So you better talk to their deity. And so they edited it in the story. Y'all see? And by editing it into the story, of course, the people being terrorized and terrified, they're going to pray all the time. Or if not, at least pretend to, and they're not going to put up a fight to keep their estate. And by the way, this is a big part of how the Catholic Church became so wealthy. And according to the story, it's a big part about how the Rothschilds were able to start their fiat banking system. Which is ridiculous on its face, y'all, when y'all think about it. You think about this. Let's say you have a lot of gold, or even a little bit of gold. Be honest. Are you going to give it to someone you don't know, who has a big building and guards around it? Allegedly, that's what it was. These big buildings with like a big temple with guards and everything. Are you going to go give your gold to them and trust that they're going to give it back to you when you come forward? Me personally, I wouldn't do that. Now, a lot of us have been conditioned to accept it because that's what we know. That's all we know, right? A bank where you put your money in. But not money, but your fiat. But let me assure you that fiat is not gold. Fiat is not gold. Now, am I going to want to let somebody hold my gold because the gold is heavy? Absolutely not. But that's what they teach you in the books. Well, gold is heavy, you had to carry it in your pocket. Well, you know what? Look at the people who have the attention of the media. Look at all the jewelry they wear around their neck and their hands. What's to stop them from wearing that or having the same weight of gold in their pocket? Look at how heavy your wallet is. A lot of y'all carry wallets or handbags. It's heavy, but you're still carrying it. Right? For me, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world to think or to teach someone that you're going to give someone all or a big part of your wealth, of your gold. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Because they might steal it. Or when you come to redeem it, they might pretend like they don't know who you are. How are they going to know who you are? How are they going to know? You go in there with a letter. Okay, let's say you have the letter. Let's say someone steals your letter. They didn't have photos and, you know, all of this type of thing at that time. How are they going to identify you? How are they going to make sure that the person who comes in to claim it or to take some of it is actually you? Or someone who says that you gave them your gold certificate. How are they going to ensure that it wasn't stolen or it's not forged? It's a foolish story. But they teach this all over the world. They teach it all over the world, and people have accepted it because they never thought about it. They never put themselves in that position where you got a big pile of gold or even a little bit of gold, and you just gonna go give it to someone and tell them to watch it. Tell them to watch it for you. No, I'll keep it myself, right? And if you want to come take it, okay, well, you come try to take it because I'm bearing arms. But it puts us in the mindset, conditions you to believe that you need someone else to do it for you. Someone else has power that you don't have. Empress Roro writes, reportedly fingerprints were not used until 1903. That's right. That's right. So when you really dig into that story, put yourself in that situation and ask yourself, would I do this? Right? But then that story falls apart. It falls apart. No, what people will do, they'll hide their gold. They'll do things like that. They're not going to give it to somebody else. No way, absolutely not. All right, y'all, where are we? Okay, so we're on page 121. Had a man sat down to try to hit out a scheme for making tyrants of one half of mankind and slaves of the other half of mankind, to make the world as wicked as wickedness itself, and to set up priestly power on the overthrow of everything that is noble. Y'all got that? Set up priestly power. That would be the banking system, the legal system, and the religious system. Set up priestly power. Hold on, y'all, I lost my spot. Okay. And to set up priestly power on the overthrow of everything that is noble. And what is that? Natural law. Natural law. Rightful heirs. Okay? Just in principle or generous in action, could he have hit on anything else so mischievous, so wicked as this? But the moral on it is, quote unquote, that men ought always to pray and not to faint. To pray, as the apostle says, quote unquote, without ceasing. To keep it up day and night. To wrestle in prayer. To bother the everlasting God out of his everlasting life. Not to trust to his goodness, his equity, his wisdom. Don't trust in his equity, his justice, and his wisdom, or any of that sort of stuff. But stick it to him, bug him to death. See, in other words, you don't be concerned about justice, right? You shouldn't be concerned about justice. You should be concerned simply with irritating the deity. Irritate him. Force him to act. Okay? So you become just like the deity is. You're not interested in justice. Y'all see it? This is the hidden or subliminal message in this. So stick it to him, give it to him, to bribe, to tug at him, to sicken him, till at last, in self-defense, the prayer-worried tyrant deity will start, and if the fleas bite him from his easy couch and comply with their desires for no other reason than because, as he might say, damn the fleas, how they bite. Y'all see that? So this notion that you should keep praying without cease or without stopping is telling you subliminally, don't be concerned with justice. If you want get back, if you want revenge, pray to the deity. Tire the deity out until you get on his nerves so much. He gets so tired of you that he answers your prayer, which means that you now care nothing about justice. You're just as unrighteous as the unrighteous judge, as unrighteous as the deity himself. Y'all got it? This is the bad morals of the Gospels. It's hidden. Nor is this any sort of caricature. I wish for humanity's sake, Han Uman, y'all, mankind, Han Uman, kind of a man. So I wish for humanity's sake, for Han Uman's sake, that it were so. But 'tis the very language of the prayer of the patriarch Jacob. So here's a prayer from Jacob, y'all. Let's read it. Quote unquote. I will not let thee go unless thee bless me. Y'all got that? I will not let thee go unless thee bless me. Consistent with the same mindset of the unrighteous judge story, and you ought to pray without let up, right? Until you get on the deity's nerve. Jacob says, I won't let you go until you bless me. I won't stop bothering you with these requests until you give me justice. Right? That's what the widow said. Justice according to her. Not justice, you know, what justice actually is. She just wanted revenge, right? And in the Catholic manual of devotion are the words of a prayer, than which no words of prayer were ever more reasonable. Quote unquote, yo. O Lord God, Zeus, Odin, if thine own goodness will not induce thee to have mercy upon me, my inopportunity shall. So I guess what he's saying is that if you won't do it, I'm going to bug you to death. Let's see. We're on page 122. Okay, so let's continue. Page 122, first paragraph. You see, after all, that there's a way of getting the better of omnipotence. There's a way of getting the better of the deity. There's a way to get the deity to act when he doesn't want to. Though he, that is the deity, stands out a long while, he'll strike at last, quote unquote. And shall not God avenge his own elect? Shall not Zeus avenge his own elect? Shall not Iesus avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him? Same principle. Same principle. You ought to pray all the time without let up, says the divine teacher. And shall men on earth think they can employ their time better than the angels in heaven spend their eternity, or than the cherubs and cherubims which continually do cry, or than those pretty dogs with 4 faces, which are before the throne of God, and rest not day nor night, crying, Holy, holy, holy. So those are the 3, not 3, but those are, that's winter, summer, spring, and fall. Okay? I think I did a post, the 4 living creatures. I did a post, a community post. Y'all can see that. Look at my community post and you can see what he's talking about if you don't know what I'm talking about, okay? So let's stop right here, y'all. I feel tired. So thanks everybody for joining me. Much thanks and gratitude for those of you who have sent in support for the project that I have to write the book of the law in modern English and ancient Ibaryath, okay? Where I'll put the etymological meanings of all the words in the book of the law. I'll show them from different sources. I'll give you the part of speech, etc. Y'all can look at my books. I have links in the description area of this video. You'll see the natural law, principles and concepts that I'm going to restore. You'll see the astrology, astronomy, etc. that I'm going to restore to the book of the law, if we get the funding to do it. So I'm asking y'all to support, and those of you who have much gratitude and thanks, okay? Thanks everybody too for subscribing to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, and of course for buying my books. Everybody's welcome to come to the 506 The Curses course on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Islam to all the Moors, and Shalom.